Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. This is NUFC Talk TV, the People's Channel, and tonight I am your host, Josh, for the American Mags. We got the usual suspects with us tonight, Mighty Wyn, Ian, and Pittsburgh Mags. Thanks for joining us, as always. And before I forget it, if you're new here, make sure, or even if you're not, hit the like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already. We continue to grow, and that's with the help of you guys and passing the word along. We appreciate that. Also, hit the bell. It'll let you know when we go live, especially as sometimes things change at the last minute. So it's always good to have that notification bell to let you know. And also, thank you so much to the mods in the background for all they do to help keep the show running smoothly. And last but not least, just to help us out, please, if you have any questions you'd like to ask us, just put a Q in front of it, and that'll help me catch it for starring it at the end of the show and coming back to it. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. How are you gents all doing today?
Melting, mate. Absolutely melting.
Yeah, it is quite hot in the northeast of the United States right now.
Yeah, here it was 43 degrees Celsius, 110 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's
yeah. It did not help while I got some kind of viral thing, unfortunately, midweek, because I'd be freezing and I tried to turn off the AC, then I was melting 10 seconds later, and it was no fun. But fortunately, that blew through pretty quickly. So yeah. But obviously, lots of news to get in.
What about you, Ben? How's Ben doing? How's Levi?
Levi's got pneumonia at the moment, so he's down.
Oh.
Yeah, me.
Yeah, but otherwise we're good. Cheers.
Good.
Yeah. It's been crazy. I feel like a lot of people have been sick lately. A coworker of mine this week came down with something, and I followed up with a buddy who lives on the West Coast. He had something, so just must be something going on right now. Everyone seems to be getting sick this week. So anyways, let's get into all the good stuff. Obviously, probably the biggest news has been transfers. Finally, the transfer levy, if you will, has potentially broken. And I think that in itself, if we just think about that, is probably a welcome news. I know on Monday, one of our topics of discussion was, were we worried on NUFC Extra Time? So with that, let's go into William Osula first, just because that seems a lot more concrete and firm, albeit the other rumor of Mr. Guehi is probably the one that gets everyone a bit more excited. So just some quick facts. I'm not going to go too stat heavy or anything. Obviously, they've been covered by many other channels and our own channel, I believe, already. But just to give some highlights so that way you guys are aware in case you didn't know. He's just about to turn 21. He is 6'1". He is right-footed. He's Danish and currently in the Danish under 21s. The deal is allegedly going to be $10 million with $5 million in add-ons. His career to date so far, he has been in the Sheffield United system his entire career. He did have a loan spell in the 22-23 season at Derby County, which at the time I believe was League One.
Oh, wow.
And SofaScore, just some quick notes. They said no outstanding strengths. Weaknesses are aerials, which kind of you wouldn't expect. Well, I guess it depends on your type of striker, but aerials being a weakness isn't per se a problem, and it also says ball control. However, I want to put an important caveat as we're going to go. All of these stats are based on relatively limited time. So don't get too impressed or discouraged by the stats. And then finally, He has a total of 21 appearances in the Premier League. 9 of them were starts. He also has 2 appearances in the FA Cup. If you average out the minutes per game, it was about 38. So obviously, as you can see, typically was being brought in as probably a second half sub. His average SofaScore rating from the games he appeared in was 6.5. And obviously, the big thing that everyone has said, no goals yet. However, I did notice, and maybe this, I'm sure somebody said this somewhere, but I might have missed it. He did have an XG of 1.65. I know not everyone loves that stat, but I still think it's worth noting that, that stat represents, if you're not familiar, in another world, he could have easily had 1, maybe 2. And he's averaged a shot a game. So just a little bit about him in case you hadn't previously seen anything about him. I'll turn it over to you, Wyn, first. What are your opinions?
If you were thinking about buying Will based on the existing stats, you wouldn't touch him with a barge pole, basically, because the underlying stats are poor. However, if you look at what he's done close season for both Denmark and in Sheffield United's pre-season games, he's playing a blinder. He's doing a Murphy. He's scoring in every game, hat-tricks, singletons, scoring for his national side. So if you just I would just take it as somebody's obviously looked at him. Somebody hasn't just looked at the stats. Somebody somewhere's been and looked at him and thought, there's potential there. And that's basically what you're buying. You're buying potential.
Yeah.
And you're hoping that Eddie can sprinkle his magic dust on him and turn him into something worth having. And that's where we are. It's not a big gamble, 10 million, whatever it might be, even if it's 15. In the great scheme of things, that's 3 million quid it's going to cost us this season. And if we have to get rid of him, we might end up burning our fingers to the tune of $1 million or 2 million. I think we can just about afford that because we definitely need another striker. I think what it does do is signals the end of the road for Parkinson, who's been more or less kept on the books, I think, because we literally had nobody else. So I think he's going to. I think under normal circumstances, he would have probably joined the exodus of the young players who aren't going to make it in June. But because we've only got Isak and Wilson, we kept him. So that's the way I look at it. I'm hoping for good things. If you look, it's like any YouTube compilation. If you look at a YouTube compilation, he looks like a world beater. Score with both feet.
I know he just said good evening, but wanted to shout out this new name. Haven't recognized Charles Zim, but wanted to call out. Welcome to the channel.
Yeah. Hi. So that's where I stand on him. I think it's a gamble worth taking.
How about you, Ben? I'll turn it over to you next.
Yeah, it seems like it's a future signing, maybe. Maybe we can. It seems like this means Wilson isn't going anywhere, at least for now. But it seems like a future signing. Maybe he can learn under Wilson and Isak, and he's also not going to be a crybaby and whinge about not getting on the field.
Very important point. I agree with you there.
And I think that's the kind of player that we were kind of looking for striker, because as many of you all have said on this channel, you're not getting anyone better than Isak. You're not bringing anybody better than Isak in, and nor would they want to come in and play second string for Isak. So this is the kind of signing that I think they were looking at making all along. And for 15 million, like you said, Wyn, I don't think it's fine. It's I'm okay with it. I don't love the stats, but as you say,
here's some interesting added stats from Foxy. I know Foxy's real good at following other leagues. apparently in the youth games, Osula scored 30 goals in 14 games.
Promising.
So,
we've had players in the past at Newcastle who've done exactly that.
Absolutely,
because you can have a Michael Chopra, prime example. Michael Chopra used to score 3s and 4s regularly for the the under 14s, under 15s, but just couldn't quite make the step up. I mean, he did make the step up, full credit to him, but he didn't bring that whole package with him that he excelled with as a young'un.
Yeah. Real quick before I go to you, Ian, just a couple things that you guys already touched on. I think it's very important, like you said, Ben, that he would not grumble about being third. And that was one of the big things that, as much as, we had links to, say, Jonathan David, who even he had fans and non-fans, you're not bringing someone like him unless Wilson was leaving. And you had I could see him being okay as being a backup to Isak, but I wouldn't see him being okay with being part of a 3.
And by the way, Wilson's probably going to be out the first few games, so he will probably be the second striker, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, you look at the age profile and everything, it's a calculated risk. And with his age, even if he doesn't pan out, I think you could still relatively easily almost break even. You're probably not going to lose much in the longer term. And one thing, and then I'll flip it to you. This was one of the questions I wanted to say. Apparently some rumors came up today, even that we're going to get him and loan him out. Yeah. To me, that if that was to happen, then I'd be very anti this signing, because the main thing that makes sense to me personally about this signing is, as we just talked about, having someone who's comfortable being a third and still giving us options in a worst case scenario, like we had unfortunately happen to us last year. So I'll turn it over to you, Ian.
Or does it mean we're going to get somebody better in up front?
The only thing I would say, when at this point in time, there is only so much time, and there's still so many more things we need.
We've got a month.
Okay, I'll turn it to you, Ian. What are your thoughts, my friend?
I agree with you. Pretty much what you guys have said. We need that third striker. Wilson is already out for the first few games of the season. We also know that Isak breaks pretty easily, and we had that problem last year where we had absolutely nobody, as a backup. He's a 21-year-old kid. He looks pretty solid. He looks like an old kind of fashioned centre forward, as opposed to, a really stringy kind of striker like Isak is. So hopefully he can, he's there as a backup, depending on where you believe he's anything from 5'11" to 6'4". I think I'd rather have him closer to the 6'4" if we're going to have him as a centre forward type, so that, if anybody gets down those wings and puts it in the middle, if he is playing, then there's somebody there with a height for the head. I know it's not usually our style of play, but it gives us that extra option. So I watched the video of him that's gone around YouTube or Twitter or whatever it was, and he seems pretty decent. He seems like he can hold his own. He doesn't seem like he gets pushed off the ball. He can run the ball, and like Wyn said, what's he going to do under the Eddie Howe magic if he does come in?
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, a couple people put in chat, and I think it was AG or Mighty Mag said, but he's worked with Tyndall as well in the past. Apparently, Tyndall was at Sheffield at one point. I didn't know that. Wow. So again, that's also a good connection that, you know, they'd have a little bit of a foot in the door. It wouldn't be like building a totally brand new bond. The only thing I just want to get your guys' opinion on, and maybe, again, this is something that bothered me more yesterday, as I think, again, with the emergence of the Guehi rumor today, I think some of the negativity of this transfer has dampened. But I personally was in the camp of getting very angry yesterday when people were like extremely negative about this, because to me, as somebody said in the chat, I think it was while I was watching Toon Review, you know, mad props to Paul and the squad over there. They've got great content too. But one of their viewers said, we're all starting to sound like entitled Man U fans, complaining and hating someone before they even put on the strip and expecting everyone to be the next Isak, yada, yada, yada. That's not how this is going to work. And I'm just curious if any of you feel that same way, or maybe it's me overreacting, because, again, this is one of the things that I have said, and I always love to try and point out the hypocrisy of oftentimes the same people that go on about how great we are as a fan base and that we're loyal and yada, yada, yada. 2 days later, they'll complain about Sean Longstaff or this or that. And again, I'm not saying you can't have critiques of players, but I think we all know that there are people that have given feedback that goes well beyond thoughtful and calculated criticism or whatever. Well, so I'm curious if you guys felt the same frustrations.
On that, Josh, I don't want us to become like Man United fans and just hoot and holler before someone puts a strip on and starts playing. But I think the point is that 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, you know, that wouldn't. Now we want our club to be top 4. We want to be part of the top 6, like the big 6. So we have the expectations now that are different than what the expectations were 4 or 5 years ago. Am I right? So I think it's okay to criticize what we're bringing in now, because we want to elevate the club to that next level that we've been trying to get to for how long. So I see it. I can understand it, you know?
Yeah. I definitely get what you're saying.
I agree with whoever it was that put those sentiments in. I agree. That there seems to be a growing cohort of fans who can't equate having the richest owners in the world with not spending as though we are the richest club in the world.
Well, we can't, though, can we?
Of course we can't.
We still have our hands tied behind our backs.
We've got both arms up our backs.
Yeah.
And therefore, there is I think there is a growing sense of entitlement.
Very good point.
You know,
which I don't like.
You know, I saw something floating around today, you know, and again, I don't know how true it is. Again, it's just rumors, but it was just something that I was skimming through and saw that we've probably got 60 to 70 million to spend in this window. You know, so again, you know, what do? Do you go out and buy 1 or 2 players that will bankrupt this, that will take out that entire, you know, purse, or do you bring in some people that we really haven't heard of and for a cheaper price? Because again, like I said, I think it was Monday night, we hadn't heard of Botman before, we hadn't heard of Isak, we hadn't really heard of Bruno, you know, when those players came in. And again, until the person puts on a black and white shirt, you know, and we see them holding up a black and white shirt at St James's or we see them on the pitch, again, we don't know if this kid's even signing for us. So again, it's a lot of negativity around, and I understand where fans are coming from. They do want us to see, like you said, always the levies at the beginning. The levies broke. We're going to start bringing people in. Are we?
Yeah, exactly. It feels like that right now, but I could easily see 48 hours from now, if neither one of these have become official, everyone's going to go back to where they were 24 hours ago, 48 hours ago, that the sky is falling. The sky is falling. And I do want to highlight one comment that I saw that I think actually I'm not going to say it fully mirrors you, Wyn, but you have said in the past you feel that most signings should be immediately improving the top or the starting 11. Therefore, the starting 11 becomes the replacements. And Kim Cam, I think, is saying something similar to that he doesn't get why we're signing promising players when we need to go to the first team. And the only thing I would say is you can't constantly balance the books if you're only ever buying promising players. You need players to have been bought before they became the superstars. Even if you look at Man City, not every player that is in Man City's starting 11 was bought at massive price marks. Some of them were bought when they were raw talent.
But you look at Man United, you look at Chelsea, you look how much money they've spent on big talent, and look what's happened.
Exactly. That's one of my favorite things.
They've bought these players in, and now they're trying to fob them all off because they didn't work out.
Well, listen,
yeah.
I guess you could maybe lump me in the group of maybe those entitled fans, and here's why. Maybe that's just the American in me. I want to win, but I got an 89-year-old grandfather that I want to see him watch them lift a trophy of some sort. You know what I'm saying? Like,
sure, I totally understand it. And I've said this time and time again. When I'll quote Keegan. When Keegan was manager, it was like I bought players into the team that were better than the players that we had in order to build the other players up to that kind of standard. But again, I also see the point that we're at right now. Unless Wilson is definitely on the way out, who is going to come in that's going to be a top-ranked goal scorer that's going to want to play second fiddle? Unless Howe plays two up front down the middle, but then you're then worried about breakages. You're worried about then if Isak comes back or gets injured again. So. And that was kind of like why we bought Chris Wood in. We bought him in because he was going to be a backup in case of anything happened, and unfortunately he didn't work out for us. Yeah. But sometimes you have to spend and bring somebody that's got promise in, as opposed to bringing somebody in that like you said is a top player, but they're not going to want to sit on the bench. The only reason why Wilson and Isak traded out pretty much last time was because when one of them was fit, the other one wasn't.
Okay, so a couple of things from what you've said there, Ian. Excuse me. You said that you'd been reading various stuff, and it said we had between 60 and 70 million pounds to spend. I don't believe that for a second. I did the sums this morning. If you'd been watching the breakfast show, which you wouldn't have been, obviously, you'd been sound asleep.
No, I was out walking.
But we balanced the books up to and including the 30th of June. So that straight away allows us now in this coming season to lose £35 million, to overspend by £35 million. On top of that, we've got £100 million plus that we got from the Premier League for finishing 7th. We've got £40 million from Adidas, plus profit from sales at the club shops. We've got 25 million from Seller. We've got 7 million from Noon. And we've got whatever we take in this season from the likes of Aramco and Saudi and the Saudi Telecommunications Company. When we strike a deal with them. Now, as I also said this morning, I don't think we'll strike a deal with them until the Man City APT transactions ruling is made. And if Man City win, it means that the Premier League have no jurisdiction at all as to the value of associated party transactions. So, but even if the rule against Man City, we could still comfortably get in another 40 or 50 million for the stadium naming, for training ground naming, for stand naming, for a variety of things. But even without that new money, we're starting off with 200 million.
Well, like I said, it was just something that I read.
I
said, obviously, I don't know this.
There's been umpteen people trying to say how much money we've got. I've done my back of an envelope stuff. I've got 200 million. Now, obviously, from that, you have to deduct the running costs for this year, which is all the players' wages, which is any amortization from the 400 odd million that they've spent so far, which is linked to this year. So you could argue that that might be 40, 50 million. It still leaves us a minimum of 100 million plus anything that we get for Trippier, Wilson, Almiron, and anybody else will sell. Bear in mind, so let's say we've got 100 million, just for the sake of argument. If we buy Guehi for 60 million, that 60 million doesn't come off the 100 million. Only 12 million comes off.
Because it's over the time of the...
Because the other 48 is amortized.
Right.
We don't know when things will get amortized and when it isn't. I don't think it's safe.
Eventually, the amortization catches you up. So you have to be very careful.
Yeah.
But the idea that we can only buy one player this window is for the birds as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It wouldn't surprise me if we sign a right winger, a centre-back. I'm saying right centre-back because... with me, the jury's out on Guehi and another striker. But I think we've got Osula in just in case that striker doesn't materialise. You know, if we can't find a proper striker who's prepared to pay second fiddle to Isak or fight for his place with Isak and Wilson.
So I'm going to go to one more thing on the striker situation, and then let's get to the big news that everyone's probably chomping at the bit, all 210 of you, a Guehi. I did see this from the Goose, another name I'm not as familiar with, so maybe I just missed it, but welcome. He's proposing Ivan Toney has 2 years left in him. Let's get him, sell Wilson, and Osula as an understudy. I'm not saying that I don't think that would work, but how would you still afford buying Toney? You definitely ain't getting anywhere close to enough money from the Wilson sale to get you Toney.
Well, the Wilson sale it's not going to happen, is it?
No, it's not.
There's nobody going to buy. He's got a back injury for 5 weeks.
I told everyone this was you needed to be hard and separate your feelings, and we should have sold him because I am convinced prior to this last injury, you could have convinced a club basis his stats, to maybe give you 15 million. Nobody and their mother is paying nobody's paying double digits for him unless he comes back, doesn't get hurt this season, and has a 20-goal season again.
Right.
That's the only way he ever sees double digits.
He has the mighty Wyn putting his head on the block again. What odds do you think it would be for Wilson to get 10 Premier League goals this season?
If he plays, I don't see any problem.
No, it's Josh I'm talking to who wants to get rid of him for 15 million. Because
so how many? Okay, let me look real quick. How many games did he start last season or play in? I need to see how many appearances he had.
Barely 50. He had a few appearances because he came on a sub a few times.
He didn't make 50% last year, did he?
Yeah. Well, let's have a look.
I just want to see appearances before I make it because I know he had a lot of injuries. So last season he made 20 appearances. So
it was like almost just over 50%.
So do I think he's going to be more fit than last year? Maybe marginally. So I'm still going to say, so you're asking for a percentage or just do I think he would do that?
Do you think he'll get 10 Premier League goals this season?
More than likely, yes.
Right. So on that basis, who can you possibly buy for £15 million that's going to guarantee you
buy someone
10 Premiership goals?
First of all, as you said, you can amortize it. So 15 times 5 gets you 60. So you could buy somebody for 60.
No.
Yeah.
You're getting,
Why? No.
You're getting 15 million. You're only getting 15 million for Wilson.
Correct. But 15 million back in your budget now means 15 million.
That's just kicking the can down the road.
I understand,
what I'm saying
but again, you could amortize 15 million.
I'm kind of over the moon that Wilson has done his back in because it means he's staying.
Listen,
he will get 10 goals this season.
I don't doubt that he will, but I think my point was,
and your £10 million William Osula will not get you 10 goals this season. I hope I'm wrong, by the way.
I don't think he will either. I'm not saying he will. All I'm saying is you've got to sell somebody. As I asked you guys on the breakfast show, to me, if we don't sell Dubs, Wilson, Miggy, or I'll throw in Longstaff, even though I don't really think it would be. If we don't sell one of those 4 this window, we've got a serious problem because you have to know when to sell. Knowing when to sell is just as important in this current way in which the system works.
But it's also it's not just a case of willing to sell. It's also a case of somebody willing to buy those players.
But why isn't anyone willing to buy Wilson? Because we waited and didn't commit, and he got hurt again.
Injured. Yeah, he's injured.
That's why I'm saying we needed to be ruthless earlier and just basically put him a little bit more aggressively marketed. But again, I want to make it clear, have nothing against Callum on our team. I love him. I'm going to support him. I just think he was our best chance of making some money.
No, because he was too old.
But
we would never have made any kind of decent money on him because of his age and because of his track record of injuries.
And just 1 year left on his contract.
But how did okay, maybe this comes into whether you believe it, but how did a club like Atletico Madrid come in for him not half a year ago, and now no one would want him? Not much really changed prior to this most recent.
Allegedly came in.
Again, fair enough. It was allegedly. We can never know if that was true. It was one of those more limited, detailed rumors. But I'm just
when we were so cash strapped in January that we couldn't make a single signing, I'm pretty sure that if Atletico Madrid had come in
we would have sold him
with a bid of whatever, 20 million quid.
Yeah.
And if Wilson had been prepared to go, we would have done that deal, because that would have then given us 100 million amortized to go and get somebody else.
Yeah. The only other thing I do agree with you, Wyn, in a weird way that I think the injury helps is I think the injury will make Callum himself be content staying here.
Yeah.
That was another big caveat to why I wanted to sell him, is prior to the most recent injury, I didn't think he would be content being second fiddle again. But let's move on for that, because we went deeper into that than I planned. And let's get to Marc Guehi, which obviously was linked earlier today by David Ornstein of The Athletic, saying that, and I want to make emphasis on this because I think some channels, whether innocently or intentionally, have misquoted this. We are in talks. I heard a handful of channels say advanced talks, which maybe I'm getting into semantics, but advanced talks to me is pretty misleading because that was not the quote. We are in talks. And, but let's just go into it. And I'll start with this since I've kind of alluded to it. A couple people have said it in the chat. Do you think it's a smoke screen? In particular, AG is proposing maybe it helps the Chaw deal get through. Also, a couple people have talked about the importance of the speed, and Kenny has said basically he thinks if a London club comes in, we've got no prayers. So I'll just go to you all. I'll go to you first, Ben. Do you think this is a smokescreen? Do you think there's anything massively to this?
Well, I kind of agree with both of those last comments you put up, especially the Kenny one. And I agree that if a London team comes sniffing in, there's no shot. I can't see this one happening. I think this might just be another, we were in talks with Elise. That was never going to happen. I think this is kind of like that. I'm not getting my hopes up on. I would love him. I would love Guehi. He played him in the Euros. I'm not getting my hopes up on grabbing Marc Guehi. Not now.
Gotcha. Clouds would disagree. He says he's optimistic on the Guehi deal. One thing I will say on the London thing, I don't know if it was a Euros interview or when it was, but I heard a couple people reference that there was an interview with Guehi at one point or another, and he did say his favorite stadium to play in beyond, I believe it's Selhurst Park, right?
Yeah.
Is St. James's.
I'll say one more thing on the Guehi real quick, Josh. Would he play in place of Schär? He comes right in. He starts, right?
I got that question lined up, so we'll come back to that because okay. I thought the same thing. So we'll go to that in a moment. But let's go to you, Ian. What do you think about the Guehi links?
We've been linked to everybody. Again, until I see somebody, with the shirt, I just take everything that's said as a pinch of salt because unless you actually work for the club and you're in the know, everything that we're talking about now is just complete speculation. I saw something earlier tonight just before I came on that there's more talks about Gordon going to Liverpool, and somebody said that they know somebody who's actually on the coaching staff of Liverpool, and they said it's a done deal. But again, we don't know. It's all speculation. It's all rumor. Would I like to see somebody like Guehi turn up at Newcastle? Of course I would. Do I think he would probably be a starter? Of course he would. Because again, look, going on to it from what you were talking about Schär, Schär's getting old. He's 32, 33, and he knows that his time as a starter is not going to be, around for too much longer. And, the amount of head injuries that he gets, he probably wouldn't mind actually, sitting on the bench for a bit. So again, it's all speculation until we see somebody with, you know, with the shirt on the back. But like I said, I'd love to see us bringing in another, you know, an improvement at that right centre back position. You know, will it happen again?
Gotcha.
We'll have to see.
Yeah, for sure.
One last thing.
GTFL. Sorry, Ian, go on.
Yeah, one last thing too. You know, you said that Guehi likes St James's Park as the best place that he's played. Pickford's also said the same thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know that many people have allegedly said that. You know, apparently it's a rather popular answer to give in the UK. So I realize that may be a little bit of a nothing burger, but I still thought it was an interesting note. Was curious if you thought that meant anything.
Yeah, as I said, GTFL stolen my thunder with regard to, you know, if a London club comes in for him, we're doomed.
Because he's already based in London, isn't he? He's already set down there.
Yeah. But which London club's going to go in for him?
I guess
Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs,
a big six team.
But even if you expand that to the big six, I would say other than Man U, which to be honest, I haven't followed their signings, I don't think Man City needs any center backs, do they?
No. But you know what? It doesn't matter
if Man City come in for him, we are knackered.
You know, but it doesn't matter with these teams, these so-called big six, these establishment is what I call them. I don't call them the big six. I call them the establishment, right? If any of these established teams come in, they're just going to buy these players, even if they don't play them. So nobody else can play. So nobody else can buy them. You know, because somebody, you know, I know that people want to play, but people would also go to the Man Uniteds and to the Man Cities and to the Chelseas and be on 150 grand a week to sit on the bench. You know, it's. You know, at the end of the day, if they do come knocking for him, you know, he'd probably go there. Yeah, will he end up playing for him? Maybe not. Would he get first team playment if he played for Newcastle? Pretty much guaranteed, I think.
Yeah. So I'll take it when we'll kind of move on, and I'll start with you on this next one. These guys have kind of already given their opinion on it. Do you see there being any issues with him usurping Fabian Schär? Because I think the general consensus would be if this transfer went through, he goes ahead of Schär. I would assume we all agree on that. Yeah, do you think that would cause any issues with Schär? You know, I just think of, like, say, the Dubravka situation. Granted, I know goalkeepers are a different animal than outfield players in playing time, and whether you going from a starter to a backup. But I don't think when we signed Pope, I expected Dubs to instantly win out, and he instantly won it out, you know, because he didn't think he was getting game time. Do you fear the same thing with Fabian Schär? Or do you think he genuinely loves us enough that he's okay and understands he's got to start being weaned down because of his age?
Well, two things.
Okay.
We have to learn that football these days is a squad game. So it's not necessarily one or the other. We need to start using the squad. What worries me about Guehi is that he's built his whole reputation and he got into the England team on the back of his performances as a left centre-back, not a right centre-back. Now, okay, he's right-footed, we know that. But if you look at his heat map for last season, it's exclusively on the left-hand side.
Well, then would that not be causing a bigger problem?
Because of all of our left backs.
Well,
because we don't need more left center backs.
Exactly. If we are buying Guehi, we are buying him to play on the right.
Yeah.
You know, we're not buying him as a replacement for Botman.
Yeah, but that is a fair point, because now that I think back of the limited highlights I watched the Euros, I think he was playing left center back for England too.
And the whole season for Crystal Palace last year was on the left. Anderson was on the right.
Yeah.
So that worries me. Does he have to suddenly, after we pay out a massive fee, suddenly start having to learn the role of right centre back? I don't know. But
the only thing you say with that brings an interesting thought, kind of merges my fears, and I'll let you continue, is originally I was more of the camp, and we'll get into this. Ironically, Ben, you commented it early in the day when this link first came out, and you have kind of similar feelings to me. I would have, in an ideal world, rather seen the big budget go to the right winger and a little bit less go to right center back, because I think that's the weighted difference of the problem we're looking at. Personally, I know I had a little bit of a debate with Gary in the chat on that this morning as well. But if he needed to learn right center back, where I was getting at this, in a way, he's coming in with the recognition and the flexibility of playing left center back as well in an extreme pinch. But I also think it gives you the runway to still use Fabian Schär as the predominant while he learns to get more comfortable as a right center back. Because I think we would all agree he has a track record enough that one would be willing to think he could learn it. He just might need half a season, whatever, with Eddie to coach that into him.
Where did he play in Europe?
As a highly established international centre half,
I wouldn't go highly established. Wasn't this his first call up?
But he got the Euros final.
But that's still one tournament call up. I mean, people still come for one tournament and sometimes never get called up again, do they not? I'm not trying to discredit him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to poo-poo. I just think established is...
Okay, let's look at it this way. Right. If we suddenly start playing him at right centre-back, then all of a sudden, instead of having that left centre-back England role as his own, he's suddenly got to start playing up against Stones. And
was he on the right?
Stones was on the right, yeah.
Stones is on the right. Guehi was on the left. Right.
Yeah.
Are you going to be better than Stones on the right? Or are you going to try and alternate between playing on the right for your club and on the left for your country?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, obviously for me, especially as an American, I could give two shits about what you do for England. That's not my problem. I just care about the black and white. But no, it's a fair point, because he's going to care about that as a player. And he's got to advertise to whoever is going to be the next England manager. Yep, I know you said you got to run, Ben.
Thanks I do have to run. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah. All right, mate. Take it easy, Ben.
All right, guys. Cheers.
But where I wanted to, but you make a good point, Wyn. Those are all good things to keep in mind as we get more situated with this. But again, I still think the caliber, I don't want to be too negative. It's a good link for sure. I don't think we're just playing kind of devil's advocate in trying to add some more flavor to the conversation on it. And the last question I kind of alluded to is, do you think if we go for Guehi, I know the rumors are saying around 60 million. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes up. Would you have personally any concerns that would affect us getting a sufficient right wing?
No, because one of the things that PIF have proven on numerous occasions is that they will not be held to ransom. They will have gone in there with their valuation, and it's more or less take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And they will not be frightened to walk away. The other thing I would say is that, and I always, me and Chris are at loggerheads with this.
Mm-hmm.
It's much easier to bring a defender into the Premiership and be effective than it is to bring an attacker in. You've always got to pay more for an attacker, but to get an attacker who's going to be effective in the Prem.
Gotcha, but you still say you aren't worried this would affect that.
No. I'm so confident that we are going to bring in a marquee right winger before the window shuts.
Gotcha.
I don't have any doubt.
And actually, so this goes into the question I forgot to kind of ask, and we'll end on this, and I'll get you. If we sign Guehi, do you think that's our marquee signing of the window? When it sounds like you're saying no, you still think we'd get someone better at right wing?
No. I think we're going to get 3 signings, probably all above 50 mil.
So you're saying 3, not counting Osula?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Ian?
Yeah.
Would you think Guehi is the marquee signing if it was to occur?
No.
Okay, so you also think there'd be someone bigger coming through this window?
We like Wyn said, we need somebody up front. We need somebody on that right. Yeah,
Okay.
Getting in Guehi would be, would be a huge bonus for the team, but he's still a young kid. He's still got a lot to prove.
For sure. Yeah.
And to be perfectly honest with you, until he started playing for England during the World Cup, I had never even heard of him. Not World Cup, Euros. I'd never even heard of him because, again, I don't pay attention really to anybody unless they're wearing black and white. Or if there's kind of rumours, I might take a little bit of a look to see what they can do. But yeah, I think we'll I'm hoping we'll get a right winger in that's going to be pretty stellar. Who it's going to be, no idea. I kind of like to see Bowen, if anybody. I think he's.
Well, I'm just saying.
We'll get into it, Wyn.
We'll get into it.
I have that as the next bullet point. I have that as the next bullet point. I just want to say, as my closing opinion, I wish I had your optimism. I like to think that I'm an optimistic person, but in my mind, Wyn, I think we're getting 3 signings, Osula being one of them. I think we'll get a right center back and we'll get a right wing. But I think if we get Guehi's going to be the biggest price tag of the window. Just my personal opinion. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're right, Wyn. I love your optimism. But unfortunately,
we shall see.
I'm not feeling the same. So let's jump over to Wyn's favorite right winger, Mr. Bowen. And obviously, it's a little bit of a stretch here, but it's still nevertheless quite interesting. I want to shout out Mason, a great helper of the channel. He appears from time to time on the Geordie Show and etc. I believe he was the one that put it on the group this afternoon, or actually evening, I should say, for you guys, that the deal is official or not. Just one step before official that West Ham have signed Somerville.
Here we go.
This is an NUFC Talk TV special. Newcastle United breaking news.
So yeah, I think it's official to say Somerville's going to West Ham. Now, before everyone starts spamming in the chat, we know that Somerville is primarily a left winger. Bowen is a right winger. However, for the record, I did look at his stats, trying to check his position and everything. It does list him on all of SofaScore, FBref, and Transfermarkt as being able to play both sides. So, with that being said,
except if you look at his heat map, 95% on the left.
Yeah, he mostly plays on the left. Absolutely.
He got a championship player of the season playing on the left.
Yeah, absolutely. No question. He's a left winger, but apparently he has the flexibility.
Yeah.
It's just
all I'm saying is it's a sweetener for the fans.
That's what I'm saying. Do you think that would help open any doors? And we've got our fellow Hammer in the chat, Daniela. Do you think that would help lessen ease the opportunity to sign him? I'm with Daniela. I don't think we would get him. I think Bowen is way out of the budget, especially if we were somehow getting Guehi. But do you guys disagree?
Right. For a start, Daniela's saying there Bowen's going to be 150 million before West Ham think about letting him go. And by the way, I don't think that's unrealistic. But equally, I don't think 150 million would necessarily put us off. Because that's still only 30 million out of the summer's budget and 120 million amortized. I don't think they'll get 100. You know, they might get 120. I would certainly, if I was West Ham, I would want more for Bowen than I got for Rice. So that's putting them in the 120 mark. But this is what I'm secretly hoping is going to happen.
Yeah. I'm not holding my breath. I agree with Daniela. I still think this one's a pipe dream, and it'd be great if it happens. I know I've gone on the record and said maybe I haven't watched him enough, but to me, granted, I know we're talking about different positions, but and maybe Daniela, we'd love to hear your opinion. Do you think he's more valuable than Rice was? I would say an uneducated opinion.
Goals.
I would say I think Rice is more valuable, but that's just me.
Anybody who scores goals in the Prem regularly, like he does, and not one season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons.
It's a good point, though. Let's not forget he's 28.
Yeah. So
From
you got
Jordy
4
Tunes
years,
for
5
life.
years, maybe.
I'll turn it to you, Ian. What's your opinion?
I don't have one. Not on this. You know, when you're looking about him being more than Rice, watching Rice play for England during the Euros, I don't think Rice was worth half of what Arsenal paid for him.
That's a different subject altogether, isn't it?
Right, but so would it be 100 million? Would it be 100? But that's the sort of money that you're paying though for players these days. Especially up front. I can see that kind of money being spent on a forward, maybe on a world class midfielder. 65 million for a defender. I think that's a lot of money.
I agree with AG. If Bowen's 150 mil, I think then that makes Gordon 500 mil.
Well, you see, I disagree. I think Bowen, right at this time, with the exception of possibly the age factor, Bowen is more valuable than Gordon.
But see, I think age is the magic key. Age is what gets you money, not talent. We were just talking about Wilson, and granted, there's the asterisk of the injuries, but he's got. Let's look at Nicholas Fulcrum, who is relevant in the chat too.
All the chat, right? All the chat that's saying 150 mil win. Are you crazy or what? What I'm saying is, it's not unrealistic to expect West Ham to value him at that. Whether they get that or not It's a whole different ball game.
Well, you look at Brentford, you know, with Tooney. They were asking for 100 million for him at Christmas.
Yeah.
And they've now dropped that price by 40 million. He's now at 60 million, and still nobody's really.
Well, I reckon you can get him for 40 actually now.
Well, you know, it's the same sort of thing, and it's kind of like, aren't they roughly about the same age? But aren't Bowen and Tony kind of like the same sort of age as well? You know, you've also got to look at as players start to get older, you know, they become more injury prone. You know, do you want to risk paying over 100 million for a player that's 28 that could?
That's the same for any player, basically, isn't it?
Well, it is, but as you well know, because you're older than me and I'm already falling apart. So,
like I say, if we can't get Bowen as JJ is saying in the chat, I'd be over the moon to get Buemo as a.
Buemo I think would be a good fit
as a fallback.
Yeah, I would like Mbeumo, and I think he's more realistic. But again, we'll have to see. You know, obviously, we're bringing this up. There's a lot of tongue-in-cheek, and there's a lot of not tongue-in-cheek, but there's a lot of a reach on this one. But it still is, nevertheless, these things have a trickle down. The only thing I will say, and I forget, it was up higher in the chat, but shout out to whoever said it. Apparently, Benrahma has just been sold, so it's probably more likely he's been brought in to replace Benrahma, who did play on the left side. So, again, you never know. Stranger things have happened.
You could argue they've got Kudus playing on the left now, who was sensational last season.
I thought Kudus was playing down the right, but again, not that I followed too much.
Daniela, where was Kudus playing last season? Pretty sure it was left wing.
Yeah, if you could, that'd help us out, Danielle. You can put that in the chat and we'll see that. But real quickly, we're already going. The last thing I want to shout out, just because on the transfers, because this has been kind of an impromptu transfer show. I personally, this is something that matters to me. I know Wyn's going to fall asleep for about 30 seconds, but the women's team has also made a new signing. Another striker, Sophie Haywood, ironically also from Sheffield United Women. So welcome to the tune, Miss Haywood. We look forward to seeing you in the black and white. Now,
yeah.
Unfortunately, Ben had to leave as part of our illustrious fashion insiders. But obviously the new kit dropped the following evening, or the following morning after we last spoke, Ian, on Monday. I believe you said you were setting your alarm for
I did.
morning.
Oh, yeah.
I'm assuming you got yours on order. I'm assuming that means you like it.
Mine's already been shipped. Yeah, it's already in the mail. I should get it Monday or Tuesday, I think. Yeah, I really do like I like the whole look of it. I like the old retro badge. I like the actual the color scheme. You know, it's still kind of green, but it's like more minty green. It's not that you know, I was expecting another nod to Saudi Arabia colors like we've had in the last couple of third kits. You know, but it's not. I'm pretty stoked about this third kit. The thing is, they'll probably wear it once the entire season, right? But
yeah. It'll probably be
a
couple.
Yeah, honestly,
it's very nice leisure wear.
It is. It's something that you can it's something that you can wear when you go out for a meal with the missus. You know.
Yeah. No, I like it. It'll probably. I mean, I'm waiting to see the away kit, and I'll probably decide from there which one I buy first.
But the thing is, we know what the away kit looks like because it's already been released. It was already released last week in Adidas in New York City before it was taken back off the shelves. And it's also been released in I think somebody posted on one of the other groups that I'm in what was it, North Carolina or Florida? It was in the Adidas store. Plus, Dom was wearing it on Wednesday night. You know, Dom was wearing it Wednesday night for this show.
What happens in Malaysia stays in Malaysia.
He did? Oh, I missed that.
Oh yeah, he was already wearing it. He'd actually bought it, and it's an official shirt. It's not like
fair enough. I'll have to go back and watch, because I think some of the leaked renderings that I saw, if it was what it is, I'd be going for the away kit as my first.
But no, like I said, last week I think it was.
Yeah, no, we talked about that. I think on the show last week that you had shared that the New York store had accidentally teased it, and we talked about was it accidental or not.
Well, I think it was, because the way that they had the shirt, but the actual shorts and everything were completely wrong for it. Gotcha. You know, so
I just find it a little odd that in their biggest store, as someone rightfully pointed out, that would be like the flagship store in our country, that it was an accident.
But you know what? These things do happen. You know,
they do. I used to work retail at Adidas specifically,
and I think somebody also mentioned too, the reason why the actual second shirt, the away shirt, wasn't released before the third has something to do with distribution. You know, I think there's something happening at Adidas where the distribution hasn't gone out, because apparently the second strip was supposed to have gone out earlier in July, and then the third strip was supposed to be coming out in August. Only it hasn't happened that way. It looks like the third strip's come out end of July, and then the second strip's going to be coming out, because I heard that there's a distribution problem with the
I think they just coincided the date of the third strip with the Japan trip.
Right. Well, I think I heard rumors it was originally supposed to be the away kit, and some believed it was supposed to be the away. When
Sella did the Tokyo skyline, when they bought all the adverts in the Tokyo skyline to get the Newcastle.
They could easily pivot that, because it's all digital advertising. They could have easily pivoted it from a red to that tealish color for that digital. But again, it's irrelevant. I trust it'll get out, and I look forward to seeing that.
Anyway, it's a nice kit.
It's a nice kit. And also in the same front, we've seen a retro kit that is long sleeve for those that like that. And it also has the traditional Traitor Adidas logo, which I know some people are very into as well. I did want to clarify again, just because I worked at Adidas, and I will put a slight asterisk, maybe things have changed. But back in the day, when I was working there about 7-ish years ago, somebody said, I heard, I can't remember if it was our channel or somewhere else, that is an old retired logo, so they wouldn't put it on. That's not true. They use that specifically for their originals line and more casual stuff, not their performance wear. So it would be very unlikely that they would put it on their actual performance game day wear. But on a retro kit, that's why you still might see a Traitor logo. At least that's my memory from when I used to work there. So, well, we've gone on, and I will just we'll do this real quick. Let's talk briefly about the friendly tomorrow. I don't know if I'm sure when you're watching. I don't know, Ian, if you intend to watch.
I'll be able to. Yeah,
I probably am going to unfortunately miss it.
Watch along 10:15 tomorrow morning.
Yeah, 6 o'clock kickoff. That's what I'm saying.
The main questions I want to ask you guys is: do you think one or all of these would start tomorrow? Bruno, Cher, Kelly, and I guess for that matter, you could also throw an Elmer on. People that are a combination of returning from international duty or new signings. Many people feel that we should see some of them tomorrow. Do you agree? And if so, who do you think we'll see tomorrow?
I don't know if Kelly will start, but I definitely think we'll see Kelly play tomorrow.
Okay.
I think Bruno will start. Because apparently the team that we're playing is like, aren't they like the Japanese champions or something? So I think he's got to kind of like at least want to put his strongest possible team out for the first half. I think, you know, if Cher's back, he'll probably start for Kraft, you know, and then maybe Kraft will come on in the second half if they swap him out, or, you know, they'll probably do what they did last time, you know, around about the 60, 70 minute mark. They'll start swapping out and bringing in, you know, some of the kids and having the kids go for a run. Will Miggy start over Murphy on that right? I don't know. The way that Murphy's been playing and scoring goals, I think Murphy will start on that right, and Miggy will probably come on half time or, you know, 60 minutes.
And that would have been my take on it as well, except that Gary came up with a very interesting point. I don't know, I think it might have been this morning or last night, that Miggy may well start because we want him in the shop window.
Yeah.
I do want to say real quickly on Davies, I will admit I say it wrong. I should know better at work there. It is Adidas, because I also speak German, but in American English, we all stupidly say Adidas.
You also say Legos too, but we won't go there.
Those, they're good.
Instead of Lego. The plural of Lego is Lego.
Yeah, just like you did your maths, you weirdos.
Yeah, because it's mathematics. It's more than one. In that situation,
Yeah.
It's mathematics.
Sure,
Not
we'll
math.
let you. Like I said, you invented the language, we perfected it.
Oh, please. You're still using the
Two
language.
similar civilizations separated by a common language.
You're still using the same language we left behind 200 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. So one last one on then the starting. Do any of you think that we might rest Isak tomorrow because he has started every friendly so far?
And who do you play in that position?
Sorry, go on, Ian.
I was gonna say, but who'd you put in that central in that striker position?
One of the youth strikers. Again, it's more of a question of some people have surmised it. Is it worth risking him in any capacity with a workload? He's played a lot. I'm sure he's going to make some appearances next weekend in the Sella Cup. It's just more of a question on the basis of, is it worth risking injury? Do you think it's risk of injury?
I think probably give him 20 minutes just for the crowd's sake. You know, for the Japanese fans.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, there is a fair point. I think somebody said tomorrow's an exhibition, not a friendly, which I know it sounds like semantics, but that might mean it's more loosely structured than, say, a friendly. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into semantics.
I'm not saying whoever's saying that is wrong, but I certainly haven't heard anything along those lines.
Yeah.
So.
Well, very good. Well, I would say I think we've touched on it all. I appreciate you guys and everything. Please be sure to tune into the channel tomorrow, bright and early, for the coverage of the game. Chris, the Mighty Wyn, and I'm assuming Gary will be all involved, bringing you great chat. And then is the Geordie show been moved to Sunday then this week, did I hear?
Yeah.
Or are you still Saturday? Okay, so Geordie show will be on Sunday this weekend because of the game being on Saturday. So tune in again for those, and great talk. And then next week we will get back into extra time and all the usual stuff. We're getting close to the season. We got some exciting stuff coming up for the season, so keep your eyes tuned. Again, I want to thank you all in the chat. It's been great. I've seen 200 plus live watching at all times. So make sure you hit that like button on the way out. It really helps us get more viewers like you and just have good chat and good banner. And again, just great to have it. And as I said, Jam reminded me, you know, we could be back-to-back Sella Cup champs. So let's keep that in mind.
And tell your friends about us too.
Yeah, tell your friends about us. So Thank you again to the mods and everything you do. Again, click that like button, hit subscribe, and we will catch you guys later.